Well, I don't know about you, but I love things that work. And today we'll talk about a dietary plan that actually works in turning back the monster of diabetes. Well, we're going to look at a couple of comments and testimonies and at least one question. So this person starts out with a triple thank you, and it's all in capital letters, so you get the feeling they are excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you, with 3 exclamation points after the third thank you. So anybody that starts out with 3 thank yous, all in caps, and 3 exclamation points at the end, sounds to me like somebody's excited. What are they excited about? Well, they go on to say, I cannot express my appreciation enough. Last November, this would have been in 2021, November 23rd, I was diagnosed with diabetes, A1C of 7.6. Not good. I had been pre-diabetic for the past 3 years with rising glucose. So pre-diabetic kind of creeping up, the way I read this, just creeping up a bit here and there for the last 3 years, and then suddenly it just hit strongly and took off and went from the pre-diabetic to the diabetic. There are a lot of people that don't like the term pre-diabetic, and I understand where they're coming from, because in a sense, if you are in that high 5s and especially the low 6s, even though you may not technically be at the diabetic level, you've got metabolic issues almost for sure. And so to suggest that, you're just pre-diabetic, better watch things a little bit, well, that's okay, but it's really stronger than that. It's like you are on the cusp, you're on the edge, you're on the precipice of diabetes, and you need to do more than just watch yourself a little bit. You need to take some serious action. So this person dabbled with pre-diabetes for several years, and then suddenly, boom, there it goes, 7.6. And most likely, if they didn't take action, it would have been much higher in another year's time. But they were smart enough to take action. So this person goes on to say, 3 months later, so this November, December, January, I guess this comment was left in February or so. 3 months later, my A1C is 5.6. It dropped 2 whole points while following your channel. So thank God for that. 3 things, they say. So 3 different things that made a difference for them. They are confident, and these would be the things they changed. 1, diet, obviously. 2, intermittent fasting. Very, very powerful. And 3, exercise, which is probably the weakest of the 3, but still useful. And don't forget about exercise. I probably don't say enough about exercise because I know how powerful diet is, and diet is like the nuclear option. It just is so powerful. But exercise is important as well. And one of the problems diabetics have is circulation. They have lousy circulation. And sadly, one of the problems you have as you get older is you have bad circulation. One reason for that is you're probably not as active as when you were younger, but another reason is your body just tends to slow down. There are some things you cannot change, and the fact that your body won't work as well at 65 as it did at 25, that is a given. It's not that you can't beat diabetes at 65. You absolutely can. But you may have to work at it a little harder than you would have had you got your diabetes when you were in your 20s. Anyway, diet, intermittent fasting, and exercise is the way. All while using, and they use a new term for the blood sugar meter, they call their meter Mike the Terminator. I like that. Mike the Terminator. He terminates diabetes. So 3 things: diet, intermittent fasting, and exercise, using Mike the glucose meter to guide them as they craft a new diet for themselves, a new lifestyle. Couldn't say it any better, and really couldn't add much more to this. They once again say thank you so much, and then they use 3 words that I just love here. It actually worked. I just love that. It actually worked. Wow. Yeah. You sort of get the idea they were going into this thing wondering, well, will it really work? And a lot of people, they see me and they hear some of the things I say, and they tend to think I'm just a kook or a fanatic or some weird fella. But this person says it actually worked. Well, we could give thousands and thousands of testimonies of people that went low carb and did some intermittent fasting and did a little exercise and stopped all that snacking. And it does. It actually works. That's the name of the game. We want something that works, and it works very, very well. When you change your diet, when you start controlling how much time of the day you're going to eat, and when you stop all that snacking, if you have a food you consider a snack food, as long as it's low carb, then tack it onto the end of a meal, but don't stick it out there three hours later after dinner and make it a snack. Just add it to your meal. But don't do that if it's not low carb. And sadly, many of the things we think of as snacks are just no good for us at all. And if you don't believe that, go into one of these gasoline station shops. A lot of times we buy gas and we don't go in the shop, which is probably the best thing because we pay for it with our card right out at the pump. But if you do want to get a snack and you go into that little store associated with the gasoline station, the filling station as we used to call it, it's just almost all junk, just junk after junk after junk, sweet things, pastries and candy and chips and just all kinds of junk. Thankfully, most of them do have some nuts. And so there's one thing that would not be junk and you could, eat a small amount of. But so much of it is just junk. Anyway, this person says, I will see the doctor again this coming Thursday. I cannot wait to see his face. There's just enthusiasm that is just oozing out of this report, just in this short paragraph where they tell their story. I mean, you can literally feel the enthusiasm that's just pouring out of this person's heart as they type their comment. And it's thrilling for me. I like seeing people happy, and I like seeing people doing well. And this person is happy, and I have a feeling they're going to get a great report. As I thought about what they shared, it reminded me when I was much younger and my children were small, when I was teaching them how to ride a bike. And I did the dad thing, right? You go alongside of them and you hold the bike up and they pedal and then you work your way to the back of the bike and you're kind of holding it by the back end of the bike. And they're like, Dad, don't let go, don't let go. And then finally, after they get the hang of it for a little while, you let go, right? And they start kind of wobbly, but they start doing it on their own. And then they turn around, they're coming back. And as they're coming back, riding the bike on their own, and they realize I've got this thing licked, there's a huge smile on their face. They're just smiling from ear to ear. It's like, I am now a bicycle rider. And isn't that cool? And as a dad, I think that's cool as well. It's been a long time since that happened, many years and even decades, but I do remember it still, and it's exciting. And that's how it feels when you start looking at your glucose meter and instead of waking up with glucose in the 260s or 270s, now it's 180 and then after a while it's 120 and then the next thing you know, you get your first sub 100 milligram per deciliter reading, or if you're in Europe in some of these places, it would be below 5.5 millimoles. And you get that first really, really excellent reading when you wake up in the morning and you're like, this actually works. That old guy on Beat Diabetes, he knows what he's talking about after all. And of course, it's not just me. There's dozens and dozens and hundreds and thousands of doctors and researchers and nutritionists that are all preaching the same thing. I am not the only voice in the wilderness here. But it is such a phenomenal thing to get excited about victory. All right, here is another comment. This person says, if you have diabetes, sweet potatoes are a safe option. Now, I'm going to have to disagree with this person, but hang on there. They say, if you have diabetes, sweet potatoes are a safe option to add to your diet in moderation. And so many people say, well, yeah, you can still have it, but do it in moderation. Still have your ice cream, but do it in a moderation. Still have your rice, but do it in moderation. Moderation, 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 moderation. And my reply is moderation, schmoderation. There's some things diabetics just ought to stay away from. And so anyway, they're saying sweet potatoes are okay, don't have too much. They're known to be high in fiber. They have a low glycemic index, which results in a less immediate impact on blood glucose level. Yeah, I know what the glycemic index is. This person says this can help individuals with diabetes control their blood sugar. So go for the low glycemic. Sweet potatoes are lower glycemic than regular potatoes, white potatoes, russet potatoes. So go for the sweet. Well, I have a friend, a little fella named Mike, who tells me that you're not gaining that much with sweet potatoes over white potatoes. Yeah, you might gain a little bit, but not that much. And I've done a couple of videos about sweet potatoes and testing myself. And it's like with a white potato, I'd jump up to 200, and with a sweet potato, I'd jump up to 185 or so. And usually within an hour's time. So, sometimes we overwork this idea of the glycemic index, and we say, well, sweet potatoes are better than white potatoes on the glycemic index. And there's some truth in that, but not a whole lot of truth. Imagine if someone comes to you and says, well, I'm going to make you sick. I'm going to give you the flu somehow, magically, I don't know how. But I'll give you a choice. You can have the flu for 12 days, 12 good long days of being sick and feeling nauseous and feeling totally out of it and unable to work. You can have the flu for 12 days, or I could give it to you for 10 days. Now, the 10 days is a much superior flu. You'll be over in 10 days, or you can go ahead and take the flu for 12 days. My thought would be, hey, fella, how about if you don't give me the flu at all? Why should I choose 10 days and feel good about it when I would be better off not to have the flu at all? So saying that sweet potatoes are superior to white potatoes, well, technically that is true, but it's not that much difference. And the same is true with white rice versus brown rice. If you look at the nutrition information, people act like, oh, brown rice has so much fiber. It's like 1 or 2 grams difference between brown rice and white rice. And it's basically the same idea that, yeah, white rice is worse, but brown rice, you're not saving that much. Better off just skip the rice and have an avocado or have a salad or whatever. And then your glucose spike goes way down. So, and some of the people that love to promote a low-fat, high-carb diet, they will grudgingly talk about the glycemic index, and then they'll say, have your sweet potato, not your white potato. Have your brown rice, not your white rice. Have your nutty, crunchy brown bread, not your nasty, sickening white bread. And technically, they're right. They're better, but they're not much better. They're still a disaster for diabetics. Let me say that again so you be sure and get it. Read my lips. They are still a disaster for diabetics. Don't take my word. Test yourself. If you are convinced that some Ezekiel bread or some whole grain bread is better than white, have about 3 slices of white. Test yourself an hour or 2 hours later. Then the next day have 3 slices of the whole wheat or the Ezekiel bread. Test yourself an hour and 2 hours later. You're going to find, yeah, there's a difference, but not much. So don't be so thrilled with the glycemic index that you let it convince you to eat things you really ought to be staying away from. If you have to eat it, then obviously a half of a piece of whole grain bread is better than a whole piece, or 1 piece is better than 2 pieces, of course. But better still have a salad, better still have a few nuts, or better still have an avocado. Better still have a bowl of cooked broccoli with some cheese over it. There's so many better choices. Why would you go for something just because it's slightly better than its cousin? Just leave the cousin, forget about the cousin and forget about the other cousin and go for the things you know are winners. I want you to know that I do have another YouTube channel. It's called by my name, Dennis Pollock. And on this channel, I teach the Bible. I do short little 6- and 7-minute devotionals normally on all kinds of Bible topics. If you're having a rough week and need some encouragement, or you just want to know what does the Bible actually say, you need to check out my Dennis Pollock Bible channel. There'll be a link in the description below.